Hi, everyone. Welcome to Health Talk Tuesday. Today, we're going to be talking about gene SNP bundles and pairing them with some clinical protocols. Listen, the bundles don't mean anything if you don't know who to apply them to and how to apply them. The bundles are very powerful, but identifying which bundle to use has everything to do with patient presentation. I get it. I know. You can do gene SNP DNA analysis and you'll find out exactly which bundle you need to use. And yet, questions continue to come up. They come up because many of the bundles tend to have overlapping gene polymorphisms. When do you know where to apply the gas or the weight? We often see that questions continue to come up from practitioners when bundles are very close to each other. So maybe we need to have a conversation about patient presentation. Maybe we need to think about having a conversation, not just about the presentation of the patient, but is there something unique or an identifying factor that may make all of the difference in the world? And that's why I want to talk to you about gene SNP and allowing them to be protocol driven. Protocol driven means that we know how to ask a handful of questions, like, do you suffer from headaches? Because there's a gene polymorphism, the FAME2 gene variant, that there's a high probability of headaches, in particular migraines. When we think about other factors that we know to be an issue with head discomfort, we know that female gender makes head discomfort that much more probable or likely. And therefore, we have to ask the next question. If headaches are more common in the female gender, is there something about female hormones? And that brings us to this concept of leptin and estrogen and thyroid and cortisol. So we want to find ways to create a bundle around that presentation, not strictly the headache or the head discomfort, but more along the lines of moving down one pathway or another based on the way questions get asked or answered. Like, do you currently have elevated blood pressure or lipids? There are gene polymorphisms that make that a more likely probability. And then within the gene SNP report, there are kind of a choose your own adventure that if you see this gene, now go look at this gene as well, because they're linked to each other, they influence each other. And so simply by understanding the gene bundle, a gene avatar, or learning how to ask and answer questions. And where do we get the answers? Within the gene SNP report. Do you tend to overeat or snack with stress? Well, the overeater gene and the oversnacking gene, for crying out loud, I named them exactly what you need to be looking for. What about low tolerance for exercise? Maybe it's not just low. Maybe exercise tolerance is non-existent, right? So we want to be looking at some of the adiponectin genes, some of the mitochondrial genes, and yeah, even some of the leptin genes. And maybe that takes us to look at some of the sleep genes. And by doing this, by asking questions, we're able to better identify an individual's bundle. Like, do you often find yourself wanting to take a nap? Is that adrenal or is that thyroid? Gene SNP can help us figure those things out. When we think about doing all of the best practices and still not losing weight, is the answer in your sleep habits? Do you find that abandoning social activities because it's just all too much is really the way a patient presents? Well, we want to be definitely thinking about mental emotional health in that individual, but we may also want to be thinking about mitochondrial health as well as blood sugar health in that individual. And gene SNP can help us figure these things out. We just need to look at gene SNP in a protocol-driven way, based on the way a patient presents, and then help kind of fold that into what we know about any one of the gene SNP bundles or gene polymorphisms. A big one that comes up that's hard to decipher are things like low energy, low sexual function, a lack of stamina or endurance. Now, of course, that could be endurance or stamina in the gym. It could be lack of stamina or endurance with sexual function. But we know that all of this is connected, right? And so we want to be able to identify a much more holistic approach, right? A full body or comprehensive approach. And that's really where the bundles are so powerful. So it's important to realize that there's no such thing as one size fits all. Will you fit beautifully in any one bundle? Will your patients fit beautifully in any one bundle? No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works, right? We do still have to take a very good patient history. We need to understand that sometimes stress is just stress. And while your genes do dictate whether or not you're going to kind of be a warrior in that situation or a worrier in that situation, whether your blood sugar or blood pressures are going to rise in a stressful situation, or whether or not it's all good, right? That does have something to do with your genes. But sometimes we just need to deal with acute situations with an acute remedy. Sometimes that remedy is, let me help you get a better night's sleep. Sometimes that remedy is a suggestion for physical exercise to kind of burn that off, or give someone a mindfulness technique that allows them to deal with that stress. And sometimes that stress becomes chronic. And that's where the gene polymorphisms and the gene SNP bundles can be so powerful. When we start to see everything point back to mental emotional concerns, or everything point back to immunity and gut health, or everything starts to point in a certain direction. And that's where gene SNP bundles and protocols can be so incredibly powerful. One I love to ask is, do you need coffee in the morning, or things just will not go your way for the rest of the day, right? This gives me a sense, not just about maybe a type A personality, someone that requires routine, but it kind of gives me an idea of giving this person structure may be one of the solutions. And a regimen through the gene SNP bundle may be a great way to give that individual a regimen to follow, because they've already identified they really need things to be structured for things to go their way. It also might be they just need a cup of joe in the morning to get going, right? Talking about adding gas to something, right? Adding some pedal to the metal. What is that? Pedal to the metal? I think so. God bless. When I try to be funny, I'm not usually very funny, right? So the idea here is, how do we figure out, because there is no one size fits all, where the gene SNP bundles are very powerful at doing that. Probably the most questions that come in about gene SNP, gene polymorphisms, or common patient presentations have everything to do with sleep quality. You know, we often find in medicine that we have a solution for blood pressure. We have a solution for blood glucose. We often have a solution for mental emotional concerns, and just simply fail at finding the right regimen or solution, medication or otherwise, for sleep issues. And I find that one of the reasons for that is, the reason you don't sleep can be so many different things. It could be stimulation from blue lights or hyperstimulation from your day. It could be that you do in fact have adrenal issues and you end up catching a second wind because your cortisol levels are not where they're supposed to be. Sometimes this has everything to do with female and male hormones as we age. Quite frankly, how to get a good night's sleep is quite elusive, because the number of things that lead to a poor night's sleep: stress, weight, caffeine, sugar, inflammation, cortisol's too high, cortisol's too low. These are all things that we have to worry about. And so finding that needle in a haystack is something that gene SNP is very powerful at doing. It kind of gives you a place to put your thumb and say, this is what we're going to pay attention to. And once we start to work on this, we're probably going to start to see many other things fall into place. And fitness is one of the places that I love to talk about gene SNP, because many people have not been successful in overcoming their gut issues, their anxiety issues, their joint discomfort or pain issues, sometimes their food cravings, definitely obesity, because they just haven't been successful in the past with what they've tried. So what is the first lesson in that failure with the patient? Lesson number one: nobody failed. We just need to find your secret sauce, that trigger, and really help you adhere to that. And that's where the regimens of the GeneSNP bundles can be so powerful. The second rule to making sure that people know that they didn't fail is to remind them that the answer may be in their genes, that failure is just simply a failure to find the best solution for them. And that's why we're going to do GeneSNP, because it can give you a better sense from an obesity or inflammation or immunity standpoint, what kind of diet should I be following? What kind of exercise should I be following? Is there something I should be doing different that I'm not currently doing that GeneSNP can reveal for me? Is there something, am I supposed to be doing CrossFit? Or is that way too much for me to be doing right now, right? Should I be doing yoga? Perhaps I have meditation genes, mindfulness genes, and my body's going to recover, including getting that good night's sleep, if I'm able to harness a better fitness program. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about a handful of the bundles. Let's start with something that everybody wants to achieve, which is mental focus, right? Clarity, please, right? Well, we know that mental focus, mental clarity, mental stamina, I often call it mental endurance or flexibility, requires the right substrate to keep neurotransmitters, synapses firing, right? Reaction time, recovery, memory, we often refer to that as the other R, recall. That all has to do with having the right amino acids on board, the right vitamins and minerals on board, and making sure that we've done something to protect ourselves from that ancillary pathway, that stress pathway that may be depleting us. And this is why adaptogens and even gut health play a big role in mental focus. I may ask a patient, do you have trouble focusing for long periods of time? Do you find yourself needing to get up, walk around, do what? Clear your head. You maybe are that patient that says, I just can't get engaged again. I hit a wall, it's 2 p.m., it's 3 p.m. I only have 90 minutes left of work. And I just can't keep focused on the page, on the computer, on what I'm doing. What is it they want to know? I can't let my productivity at work go away. So what do? There must be something I can take for mental stamina. And so you've got an option. We've got people that are reaching for amphetamines to pull this off, but we've also got people that are reaching for things like glycine, taurine, tyrosine, these amino acids, phenylalanine, hugely helpful, right? So we want to think about what builds neurotransmitters. These are just simply chemical messengers in the brain. They're not drugs, they're naturally created, and they're created from what? B vitamins, magnesium, some minerals like magnesium and calcium, other vitamins like vitamin C. So we want to make sure that we've got enough of those on board so that we can create a healthy mental focus or clarity or mental flexibility environment. But we do find that some people have gene polymorphisms that make them a little bit more anxious, a little bit more wound up, or having a difficult time flipping switches, right? We often refer to these as the methylation pathways. And mental activity, mental acuity, mental stamina is intimately linked to methylation pathways. So what is methylation? It's essentially the turning on and turning off of certain cellular switches, right? These cellular switches have a lot to do with neurohormones, have a lot to do with neurotoxicity and how we detox from our environment, have a great deal to do with endocrine pathways that support breast tissue, ovarian tissue, prostate tissue, uterine tissue. In fact, methylation switches are responsible for the better part of 200 metabolic switches in the body that have everything to do with mental focus here, detoxification here, and ultimate energy and stamina throughout the body. So we ultimately want to supplement to drive healthy methylation pathways. We want to make sure that we promote the body's ability to detoxify from xenobiotics or toxins that are in our environment, but also make sure, especially as we age, that we are able to properly metabolize our own hormones. So we're not just talking about new to nature molecules that are found in our food, our air, and our water that we need to metabolize and neutralize, right? And ultimately clear. But your body generates some of these signals or abundance factors or end products of metabolism that may need clearance as well. And if you are a poor methylator, you'll have a hard time doing that. And so we want to make sure that we up your methylation game by giving you gut support, adrenal support, right, with adaptogens, that we make sure that you have the building blocks for healthy methylation pathways with things like magnesium, which is of critical importance in methylation, activated B complex, very specialized B vitamins, and make sure that you have those amino acids that can create those neurotransmitters. So ultimately, when it comes to mental focus or mental flexibility, the supply of neurotransmitters is really where it's at. And the way we supply those neurotransmitters is to make sure that you're micronutrient sufficient and that you have the right amino acid combinations on board. Specifically, things like tyrosine being an enormous player in energy production and neurotransmitter function. Things like taurine playing a role as a precursor to GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. B6 and magnesium, very important to make sure that the gut is able to utilize fuel, essential nutrients like glutamine, ultimately create its end product, glutamic acid, and then ultimately take glutamic acid or glutamate and turn it into GABA. All of this sounds like a whole lot of biochemistry, but the truth of the matter is it's a cascade that runs off of B vitamins, that runs off of amino acids. And when you're sufficient in these nutrients, B vitamins, magnesium, and amino acids, it can start to run like clockwork. And that's why we make sure to put the Nutrimetrics isotonic essentials turn up in the methylation bundle because it has phenylalanine, right? And one of the benefits of phenylalanine in the turn up product, in particular when it comes to methylation, is that phenylalanine blocks folic acid. Phenylalanine and leucine actually as a branched chain amino acid that is found in whey products, as well as in smaller amounts in other food products, is very good at blocking receptors, bumping off folic acid from enriched foods that may cause harm to a methylation individual or someone that is struggling with methylation. But we know that this methylation stress is very similar to oxidative stress. So you want to have the right components to kind of bump that pathway in the right direction, kind of get it back on its tracks if that's what needs to happen. And that's one of the ways that we use the B vitamins and the magnesium, is to ultimately give the product of metabolism. We ultimately want to give the activated form of these nutrients and then allow magnesium to improve something in the body called FAMI, a link of methionine that is critically important in producing healthy brain function, mental flexibility, clarity, and focus, as well as a better mood. We ultimately know that many people that don't have healthy mental flexibility or don't feel like they have that mental stamina or endurance also tend to struggle with physical energy. And so you should know it's not just about mental health or prostate or ovarian or breast tissue health where methylation plays a big role, detoxification, but also in cardiovascular energy and muscular energy. So methylation plays a pretty big role in the body. So it's nothing to turn your nose up at. And that's one of the reasons why the turn up or the isotonic essentials also includes an antioxidant, rich fruit antioxidant mangosteen that is rich in something called xanthone. Xanthones are fatty acids that have a very long burning capacity, energy burning capacity. So unlike caffeine, which is a xanthine that can give us a boost of energy, xanthones give us a sustained energy. And so we're really focusing in the methylation bundle on those individuals that need more mental flexibility or endurance, those people that want or need more physical stamina or endurance, especially if they're feeling kind of fatigued here. And that's why we have those in the methylation bundle. Now, magnesium, I can't say enough about the importance of magnesium, in particular for neurotransmitter production. It also reduces stress. So now we're talking about those kind of ancillary pathways in the poor methylator that may put too much pressure on their methylation pathways. And that is, of course, not being able to manage their stress, having their central nervous system constantly pinged, right? So we want to make sure that they've got magnesium that can help them with serotonin and dopamine balance. So they're still getting reward from the day, but they're not getting, but they're also being fed serotonin so that they are able to balance a mental hyperactivity, a physical hyperactivity with the other side of that, right? The yin side of the yang. And that is one of the superpowers of magnesium, is that it's beneficial for both dopamine and serotonin production. And so we get a pretty healthy balance of that. Now, I do want to bring up the idea of balance because we added in the methylation bundle, we added the importance of adaptogens and gut health with the probiotics. So we've got adaptogens like ashwagandha and L-theanine in this bundle, as well as a focus on gut health, where methylation is also of critical importance. And that's why I want to bring up things that we need to talk to the poor methylator about, which is stress management. It's one of the reasons why the physician that you will ask, should I be looking at the mental health bundle, the balance bundle, or should I be looking at the methylation bundle? And so I want you to know that you're really well covered with the methylation bundle, simply because we've kind of taken that mental emotional health aspect and that gut health aspect. Again, the gut is so important for mental emotional well-being. So first everything starts with lifestyle. It doesn't start with supplementation. It doesn't start with a bundle. It doesn't even need to start with GeneSnip. It needs to start with, what are you willing to commit to today? What kind of lifestyle changes can we make? Right? Taking a break from a stressor. How is that possible for you? I do want to stress the importance of mindfulness in the morning, 10 minutes in the morning, right? 10 minutes in the afternoon. I'm really not partial to where you give yourself 10 minutes. What I say to patients is, it is no small thing in your day with everything that you have going on in that to-do list. It is no small thing to give yourself 10 minutes, right? I want to reward people for taking that little bit of time. It is a fraction of the day, and yet doing it is no small thing. So that's why we look at adaptogenic botanicals like the TLS Axe with ashwagandha, holy basil, L-theanine, rhodiola, erythrococcus. And we get some of those same benefits by looking at Bliss. That Bliss is an anti-stress formula. Again, ashwagandha. It has L-theanine. We're looking at some of these incredible adaptogenic botanicals like erythrococcus. So it's important to know that the difference between these two is that the anti-stress formula, the Bliss formula, is considered an acute stress formula, while Axe is really about that person that's had chronic stress, has kind of been under duress for some period of time, and it's starting to foul up their hormones. So maybe their cortisol is chronically high, or maybe it is at this point just dumped. And that's where the Axe, the adrenal cortisol, thyroid, and stress management product is so powerful. Both of them focus on something that the poor methylator needs, which is adaptogen support, right? So they can bob and weave in a stressful situation, but also neurotropic brain health. And that's something that ashwagandha that's found in both of those products is so helpful for. It's a nootropic. It's something that's going to give mental clarity, mental flexibility. So we see improved focus and reaction time with ashwagandha. We don't just see a boost of energy levels, we see a level of endurance that even athletes want to achieve. In fact, ashwagandha is used to support physical pursuits or endurance pursuits physically, and helping them adapt and recover from that type of physical stressor. We also need to take a moment and think about green tea, which is where you're going to get the type of tea that you're going to get the most L-theanine from. Now, you're going to get L-theanine, 200 milligrams of L-theanine in both of these products, but I want you to know that there's other places where L-theanine, especially if you've got someone that's under a lot of stress. One of my favorite adaptogens is going to be L-theanine, and part of the reason for that is what it also does for brain health, being an amino acid. So I want us to think of Bliss, the Axe product, or green tea as our solution for some of these nervings or relaxation of the very anxious or overwhelmed mind. As I had mentioned, ashwagandha, I want you to know that the Axe product uses the clinically evidenced sensorial ashwagandha, right? And those are some of the reasons why we recommend the methylator bundle the way that we do. You've got the activated B complex, you've got the anti-stress formula as I've discussed it, and then you've got that solution for gut health with the probiotics 10. We know that the gut and the mind are intimately linked. We often think in health about the hypothalamic pituitary gut gonadal axis, right? Did I skip thyroid? I did. So we want to think about that axis and how do we support it. And one of the very best ways that you can support overall endocrine function in the body, overall communication in the body, is to use the master communicator. And those are your gut bugs. When we think about a healthy gut biome and their DNA, they are creating through communication, your food craving habits, your mental, emotional health and well-being, even the way your body holds on to energy, whether it saves it or stores it. The answer to that is in your gut diversity. And that's why taking a probiotic is so critically important for the poor methylator. We want you to think about different ways to take the products as well, because when we think about taking 5 different products, you want to make sure that you're giving a regimen that someone can follow. Now, the first question that I always get asked is, can I take it all together? You absolutely can. Many things do not have an immediate onset. Save for things like Turn Up, which was developed for quick onset. Save things like digestive enzymes that were made for quick onset. Even calcium has a quick onset. And as I said, Bliss is for the acute stress situation. There's going to be times where common sense will dictate that you're going to take Turn Up in the afternoon or at 11 in the morning when you need a pick-me-up. What I'm going to recommend for a bundle like this is that you take the Turn Up separate of the Bliss. Now, it's not because they interact with each other or they counteract each other, but what I want to do is to ultimately have you use the adaptogens in the morning, right? So that you can kind of set the tone for the day, and that when you need to pull yourself across the finish line, that's when you or your patients use Turn Up. Because the nature of methylation pathways function the way we do, we may often need to prioritize certain supplements. We may want to prioritize the production of SAMe, so important in methylation pathways. Making, if I had to break up this bundle, I would probably focus on making sure that I had that magnesium. I would prioritize the activated B complex, and then I would look at the probiotics. And people get surprised because I'm such a big fan of the turn up for methylation with those amino acids. And ultimately, I want us to remember it's all about creating the right foundation. And while those amino acids are absolutely critical, they can be achieved through diet, but manipulation of the gut biome, that really does require that probiotic, something that's going to work right now for results. That's why things like B complex and magnesium are so powerful. Now let's get into a protocol looking at gut health, right? We wish our patients ate this much color, and yet they don't. And it limits their immunity. It limits their ability to lose weight. It limits their mental, emotional ability. But I think as a functional practitioner, someone that looks at more of that lifestyle approach and then the ills of lifestyle insults, immune function is one of the first things that is going to decline when you don't have a healthy gut function. And that's why I want to talk about the gut guard bundle. Having a healthy immune response, mounting a normal, optimal immune response has everything to do with the signals that your body is getting. And those signals are coming, yes, from the food that you eat, but as I was alluding to earlier with probiotics, it's also coming from the gut diversity. And so if we can kind of let our gut biome take the reins, right? Do the heavy lifting, we'll find that obesity falls into place. We'll find that even sleep and mental, emotional issues fall into place. But the most important thing I could achieve is to help a patient's immune system fall into place. So I want to make sure that I'm balancing the digestive system. I want to make sure that I'm working to that end so that I have a controlled environment when it comes to inflammation. I'm looking to create healthy barriers, right, in the gut. And so those are the reasons why we're looking at the gut guard bundle the way we do. Many people are surprised to find out about the importance of astaxanthin for gut health. Astaxanthin is unique in that it is a xanthophil. And xanthophils are in the carotenoid family. Other carotenoids that you know are things like zeaxanthin, lutein, beta carotene. So you've already thought of these things for immune function. Everybody thinks of vitamin A for immune function, beta carotene. So it's not that far of a reach to think of other nutrients that are in this same food family as being also beneficial for immunity. But astaxanthin has a real affinity for gut tissue, has a real affinity for gut mucosa. And so in fact, astaxanthin has a real affinity for tissues that have really high metabolic demand. Astaxanthin is very much an endurance nutrient. It's very much something where the body requires either a lot of cell activity, a lot of stamina or physical energy production. Astaxanthin is one of those things that can help us achieve that. That's why athletes use it. In addition to, it can control for some end products or breakdown products in the muscle that's overworked. So I want us to think about astaxanthin for its benefits in gut health and in keeping an inflammatory environment in a healthy inflammatory range, because inflammation is absolutely necessary for your survival. And so we want to keep it in that healthy range. And astaxanthin can help us do that in the gut. But there's something else that you should know about astaxanthin, the gut, and in tissues that require a lot of energy, which is astaxanthin has a relationship with coenzyme Q10 through the tissue. Because astaxanthin can span the entire bilipid layer, it has the ability, the potential to be on the outside and the inside at the same time. In doing so, it's able to communicate with other antioxidants and neutralize free radicals in a very unique way. It can recharge or act like a lightning rod to other antioxidants, and that's pretty powerful, including beta carotene, including vitamin C, including vitamin E. All of these are a huge need in intestinal wall health. In addition to that, though, because of the way it spans and can be on the inside and the outside at the same time, it can also communicate with coenzyme Q10. And that's going to improve energy production, health of tissue in general that has a lot of energetic demand. So I want you to think of your lungs. I want you to think of your intestines. I want you to think of mucous membranes. Places where coenzyme Q10 is very abundant, astaxanthin can perform very high. We're ultimately looking for overall cellular defense, and it's one of the reasons why the gut guard bundle includes curcumin. Very much like the astaxanthin or even black seed oil that is found in other gut toning products like a cannabiquin. We often think of hemp-based products being very calming to the nervous system and very calming to people that carry stress in their gut. Well, one of the reasons why cannabiquin with its black seed oil is just as powerful is because it can control for an unhealthy inflammatory environment. Or curcumin takes it one step further. Not only is it a master cell regulator, curcumin, where it can control for immune function, it can turn on and off proper immune signals, making it an immune balancer. A lot of people are concerned, especially as it relates to immune dysfunction, that they don't want to take anything that may boost their immune system. And really what we're talking about with curcumin or turmeric is something that is a mediator or a balancer of two sides of your immune system, so that you can mount a healthy immune response should there be a foreign invader, but that you don't keep that heightened immune response going. And so there's very much a balance here with curcuminoids and turmeric, making it very powerful. The other thing to pay attention to is antioxidants that can clear up cellular debris. So green tea, things that add to blood flow like ginkgo biloba, things that are considered the leading actor in liver health, like silymarin, and these things that can support kidney function, in addition to vital nutrients like beta carotene. And that's why timeless prescription oxygen extreme is also in the gut guard bundle, so that we can neutralize free radicals, that we can control for the inflammatory environment, that we can create a healthy barrier. Starting with these very unique antioxidants, astaxanthin that works in a completely different compartment or tissue of the body than curcumin extreme, and timeless prescription oxygen extreme that has different free radical scavengers that are supporting other organs of detox, like the kidneys, the lymphatics, the skin. And so what we're doing with the gut guard bundle is we're really giving the body its very best immune defense. You can't talk about immunity without talking about vitamin D. It's one of the reasons why we put vitamin D in the gut guard bundle, knowing that many individuals with immune dysfunction, immune concerns, or just poor gut health would be vitamin D insufficient. They're either using it up for any number of reasons, but immune concerns being at the top of that list. Vitamin D is a prohormone. It's derivative of cholesterol. There are some very powerful anti-inflammatory benefits associated with vitamin D. And so you're finding that, a couple of things that we're talking about when we look at the gut guard bundle is controlling for inflammation, appreciating that it needs to be there, right, to mount a healthy immune response, but we need to also be able to turn it off. But that we also need to have other players that support an immune system, that create a healthy gut biome, that create a healthy gut barrier, so that we do not end up with an imbalance in immune function. One of the things that is really important to know about vitamin D and immunity is the role it plays in regulating T cell function. So when we think about letting those antibodies get up, we also want to make sure that we've got some level of retained immunity. And this is why those T cells are so powerful. I often tell people, don't let your guard down, and that's why you need the Gut Guard bundle. Moving into resistant starches with the NutriClean fiber powder, and then of course focusing on that gut diversity. And that's why the probiotics 10. Specifically, we're looking at strains that have been shown to help us lose weight, keep LDL within healthy ranges. Think about some of the metabolic concerns that go along with either an aging population, someone that is prone to immune dysfunction, or more importantly, some of those comorbidities that like blood sugar issues, cardiovascular issues, that would put someone on the wrong side of being able to mount a healthy immune response. And that's why we created the Gut Guard bundle. The Gut Guard bundle is ultimately an immune bundle, a healthy barrier bundle, so that you can mount a healthy immune response and protect yourself from the world, both external and internal, because sometimes we create an abnormal immune cascade, and each one of these can be supportive in mounting a healthy and optimized immune system. And the last bundle I wanted to talk about today, when we think about protocol driven and who's walking into the office, is the idea of mental health and mental well-being. And that's why we have the mental health bundle, focused on minerals to create those neurotransmitters. It's not just the magnesium that is so important, but zinc being of critical importance in a healthy neurotransmitter or neurologic function. That many of the trace minerals are critically important. But by and large, most individuals, especially those that are running themselves ragged, or those that are predisposed to mental emotional issues, have a higher need for minerals. You know, we often think about the fibromyalgic individual. It just hurts everywhere. You say, where does it hurt? And they here, everywhere, right? So I often, one of my first go-tos, again, keeping it simple, is I'll say, let's make sure that we get some more minerals in you. You know, this is like giving an athlete an electrolyte drink. This is like giving somebody that's dehydrated an electrolyte drink. You know, we're going to give you some charge. And that's really what minerals do. Not only are they the heavy lifters, and a lot of people, your patients are surprised to find this out, but that minerals are actually doing the heavy lifting and detoxification. You know, we often think about these, you know, these well-evidenced or these well-researched botanicals, but ultimately it's zinc, copper, manganese, molybdenum that are really ruling the roost when it comes to detoxification pathways. And that's why this mineral complex is so important for that mental emotional fatigued patient, that physically run down patient. Thinking about that patient as a very fibromyalgic type of presentation. Minerals are really important for this individual. Omega-3 fatty acids, really, it goes without saying, because EPA is so necessary for that, for mental emotional health, for perception. When we look at individuals that have a clinical presentation, we often find that EPA is the solution for them. Now, this is the omega-3 heart health. So it's a combination of EPA and DHA. And I really want to focus on the importance of DHA. Why it is true that EPA is what's considered critical for the anxiety individual, the person that has low mood, low affect, or we're concerned about the mental emotional well-being of an individual. That is very much EPA. But as we think about cognitive health as an individual ages, that is really about DHA, no different than what we thought of as an infant grew. We focused on DHA for brain development. And the same things that you focus on for development are the things that you focus on later in later decades of life for retention. And that's why DHA is so important for the mental emotional health of an aging brain. So we want to make sure that we're using both EPA and DHA. Activated B complex, again, when we think about the ability to make serotonin, dopamine, and many of these neurotransmitters that can keep the mental balance in our lives, especially if we're hyperstimulated, overly stimulated, we're in front of devices all the time. And we very much want to focus on whether we identify with the mental emotional bundle or the balance bundle or not. We want to make sure that we're getting those activated B complex. Now, we did put in a stronger version of Bliss in this product by using the ACTs, the adrenal cortisol, thyroid, and stress. What we're doing right now is appreciating the individual that's been under stress for a while or has gene polymorphisms that wouldn't allow them to mount maybe the same kind of resilience to ongoing and consistent stressors. Persistent might be a better word. So when there's persistent stress in an individual's life, or if they have gene polymorphisms that start them on that scale from 1 to 10, 10 being really bad, they have gene polymorphisms that maybe start them at a 4 or a 5 or a 6, we're going to need to bring in something like the stronger ashwagandha, the stronger botanicals here. Now, they're stronger in milligram doses. They're not necessarily stronger in active ingredients, except for that ashwagandha. The ashwagandha that is in Bliss is a 3% ingredient. Ethylphenolide is the active ingredient that has this mental emotional support or this balancing capacity, this endurance, mental and physical endurance capacity. So that's called the withanolide, and Bliss is about a 3% withanolide. It's an 8% withanolide in ACT, so twice again as much. So I think it's important to know that we're using them in different ways for that end or to that end. But probably one of the best solutions is that one I alluded to earlier. We're finding a good solution for somebody that doesn't sleep well. And that's why there's turned down in this blend. Tryptophan has been shown to be very beneficial for people trying to lose weight, stay on a weight management program. Those individuals that, due to mental, emotional concerns, tend to board eat, overeat, emotionally eat, but also very good for the aging female and male, where hot flashes or night sweats may be a concern for them. L-tryptophan is really quite beneficial in running down some energy pathways. This is one of the reasons why it pairs very well with curcumin, is because it's considered one of these necessary nutrients for the production of NAD in the body. And NAD in the body is all about mitochondrial function and longevity. And so I really want us to think about that mental flexibility as well when we look at turn down, not just at turn up. We really want to make sure that individuals are getting a sound night's sleep to make sure that their mental health is on board, that they have healthy mental emotional balance, perception, that they don't feel overwhelmed. Isotonic Essentials Turn Down, if you're looking at this bundle, is the priority because it has magnesium, it has calcium, it has B vitamins, in addition to the L-tryptophan. I then would use the omega-3 fatty acid as my next solution for the reasons that I had brought up. The healthy EPA for mental emotional perception, but then that DHA for healthy brain volume and the mental emotional concerns that we have the potential to see in an aging brain. And then there's that idea of that physical performance. And that's so important to look at because I said fitness is necessary. So this is what I refer to as an adrenal bundle. We think of it as we've named it the Revitalize bundle, but this is really for people that need that extra oomph in their adrenals. They've really kind of run themselves. You've heard the idea of burning the candle at both ends. That's ultimately how and why we created this bundle the way that we did. Now, the peak performance looks like an athletic blend. And while this is very much the blend I give for the purpose of athleticism, fitness, physical endurance, and stamina, it has a secret. There's a secret behind that. And that is that probably one of the most important things you could do for an individual that is running their body physically, whether they're an athlete or they're a parent, right? And they're always on the go, or they're a corporate executive, and therefore the world is constantly coming at them fast, is you'll give this individual, the athlete, the parent, the executive, you'll give them the resources to recover. And that's ultimately what this is all about. It's a recovery solution. B vitamins to help the nervous system recover, magnesium to help the nervous system, the vascular system, blood sugar, endocrine system recover. Peak performance with branched chain amino acids to feed those muscles, to allow healthier reaction time, in addition to things like B vitamins, vitamin D, pycnogenol. We want to make sure that we are focusing on recovering. That's why peak performance is more than just like a fitness custom cocktail. It is about adrenal health with those branched chain amino acids in there. You're giving that leucine, you're giving that isoleucine, you're giving, it bypasses the liver, and that gives a lot of power and reserve back to the body. And then there is, in fact, the heavy lifter in longevity, in recovery, and in energy, and that is coenzyme Q10. And keep in mind, we use CoQ-Sol, which is a crystal-free coenzyme Q10. So it's a highly bioavailable coenzyme Q10. We need to think about an individual's level of stress and why we, and I'm talking about physical stress at this point, but you may be thinking about your adrenal or your thyroid patient as well, and how you could kind of put more gas in their engine. And this is one of the ways that you're able to do that, not just with the coenzyme Q10, which will play a role in blood sugar support, not just energy support, but focusing on the whole energy picture. And so we see this a lot in low thyroid patients or in adrenally fatigued patients, is a lack of gas, right? And so this is one of the ways that we can kind of put that back. This is one of the ways that we can support metabolism, especially if that metabolism starts to become sluggish. The peak performance I do recommend in the afternoon, very similar to the way I recommended the amino acids in Turn Up, simply because what we're trying to do is get past the finish line. If you wanted to use this in the morning, that would be perfectly fine, especially if your patients are saying that they hit a wall at that 11 o'clock hour, right? And we're really trying to shift some this clock for them. I'm going to tell you, if that is the person and they're hitting a wall at 11, not at 2, not at 3, we really want to make a shift in their cortisol, which means you may want to consider moving the activated B complex out and moving ACT or BLISS in. That is up to you and how the individual responds, but that would be a suitable substitution if you're finding that the wall comes down on them very early in the morning. Adrenal wear and tear is no small thing, because we're asking people to heal themselves, to repair themselves, to stop doing the things that, quite frankly, are necessary for them to collect a paycheck, necessary for them to run their household. So it's very difficult to get someone to kind of change this pain point. It's what I have to do. And so for that reason, we want to let them know, if that aspect of your day cannot change, then your supplement habits need to change. The use of the heart health coenzyme Q10 and the peak performance are probably going to be the best way to start on this bundle if you had to start on any one thing, and then you can introduce the other two products. And again, you've got that option of substituting out the other act or bliss in place of the B vitamins if you've really got someone that's hitting a wall. Ultimately, what I want to ask you when it comes to creating your own um, bundle or your own identity with GeneSNP is, what is it that we offer, right? Curcuminoids or OPCs. There are multiple studies supporting that oxidative stress is a problem in cardiovascular function and endocrine function and the healthy brain, especially as we age. So we want to think about those types of things. Are there common threads throughout each one of the bundles? Absolutely. B complex and magnesium are a part of almost all 12 bundles. B complex is excellent for creating longevity, creating those neurotransmitters, supporting mental emotional well-being while also supporting a healthy nervous system. The omegas, a big critical part of the healthy nervous system as well, but play a role in brain longevity, play a role in telomere length. So when we think about creating a healthy gene environment, we often hear that in the same conversation that we hear about lengthening telomeres or improving the quality of our telomeres. So you should know that antioxidants and omegas, B vitamins are all part of that telomere discussion. And we really would be remiss if we weren't talking to patients about vitamin D3 and magnesium. It really does come down, whether we're talking about the gut guard bundle to immunity or cardiovascular function. All of these things play a role in healthy aging and longevity. It's true we can dictate many of these products, many of these bundles through GeneSNP DNA analysis. But at the end of the day, lifestyle matters. And so we want to talk to people about what their unique lifestyle gives them and then find solutions for that. Until I get to see you on our next Health Talk Tuesday, go be healthy, go be brilliant.